We are so excited that right now, during our LPGA US Women's Open, we have Catherine Lacoste, the champion of the LPGA Major Tournament from 1967, to our Birdie Booth Miami channel. Before we get into this interview, which we are all so excited for, let me introduce you to the Birdie Booth team. Hi, I'm Sophie Estrada. I'm 11 years old and I'm the Junior Ace Advertiser of Girls Golf in Miami.
Hi, Catherine. My name is Sabrina Sobrino. I'm 9 years old and I'm the Sweet Scrambler in the Leadership Committee. I've also been playing golf for 6 years. On to Oakley.
Hi, my name is Oakley Sever. I am 14 years old. I am the Glitzy Gifter of the Leadership Committee, and I've been playing golf for 5 years. Back to Sophie.
So before we get into this interview, I would like to say Catherine's bio. She was born in Paris. You have a multi-sporting talent in skiing, skating, swimming, horse riding, and tennis. Your parents are world-class tennis players, founded the brand Lacoste. At age 19, you were selected in the 1964 for France in the World Team Championship, champions of the World Team Championship, and individual champion, 14th in the 1965 US Women's Open. You won the 1967 Women's Open Championship by 2 strokes, pulling off a 2-wood cut shot over the trees, outgolfing her competitors. She also won on the same day as her father's birthday. She is the first European and only non-US citizen to win an LPGA major. Catherine is the youngest woman ever and remains the only amateur ever to win the US Women's Open. In 1968, you won the Women's Western Amateur Championship. 1969 won 2 most important amateur tournaments in the world, US Women's Amateur and British Ladies Amateur Championships. Third woman in golfing history to achieve that in the same year. Catherine and her mother are the only mother and daughter who have both won the British Amateur. Retired from golf at age 25 and never turned professional, even after winning the most prestigious golf tournament in the world. As my first question, I would like to ask, I read you played a lot of sports as a child. Did you have a favorite?
As a child, I only started golf about 8 years old, which was very young in comparison to all of you. I think my favorite was swimming, and I played the other sports you mentioned. I really played a bit later. I played tennis, but not so much as golf, but also around about 8, 10 years old. I think swimming is very, very important for children to start very young, because it is the only really sport that you can do quite a lot without hurting your body as a child. You've got to be strong enough and have strong enough muscles to be able to play any sport to a very extent way. So I think it's very important. And the other sports I really started along my life. I played volleyball a bit, and tennis and swimming. That's the main things I did as a child.
How and why did you get the name Crocodile Kid?
Well, Crocodile Kid, also something else. My mother was she wasn't from a tennis world, it's only my father. And he was the one who invented, the crocodile, or the alligator, as you probably call it, that he put after that. He was called the crocodile himself when he played tennis, when he won Wimbledon, Forest Hills, or US Open Championship and the British Championship in tennis. And he was called the crocodile, in fact, because there's a joke is that he was going around with his captain and he saw a crocodile suitcase. And he said, "You're going to buy me that suitcase if I win my match." He didn't win his match. In any case, the captain wouldn't have bought him his suitcase. But that's why it's called the crocodile. And after that, it was very developed because of the Lacoste shirt that you probably heard of, the alligator shirt that some of you perhaps have worn. And so being his daughter, when I won the tournament, they called me the Crocodile Kid.
What is your biggest life achievement?
I think that said I can add to what you told about me, is that during a whole year, October 68 to October 69, I played a lot of championships, but in the World Team Championship, which I was first individual in 68 in Australia, up to 69. And during that, I won the British, as you said, and the ladies. I didn't lose one single match in match play or medal play during that whole year. I think that's probably the most important feat, because I don't think anybody can say that they played all those tournaments and won them all and didn't lose
Wow,
one game.
that's amazing.
The US Open is obviously the greatest because it's played by amateurs and professionals. The British ladies until the 80s wasn't played by professionals because there were no professionals in Europe. So it was only an amateur tournament. And also, I think the ladies championship, which was amateur at my time, I think is probably one, by heart, is probably one of the ones I love most, because my mother has won it before.
It is so incredible to me that you, as an amateur golfer, won the 1967 U.S. Women's Open Championship. Can you tell me a little bit about how you felt when you won?
Obviously, it was very, let's say, very difficult to go as an amateur, especially from France, to go and play the US Open. I'd gone over to play it because Mrs. Prunery, who was captain of the American team in 1964 during the World Team Championship, advised my parents to bring me over to the United States. In 1965, I came over with them and played my first Open in Atlantic City, and it was a wonderful experience. I finished 14th, which wasn't bad at that time. But I wanted to try more, so I went over again in 1967. I went by myself. My parents, I asked them to go by myself. I thought that I was nearly 22. In fact, I was 22 just before the tournament, and celebrated my birthday. Somebody you've certainly heard of is Patty Berg, even though she's passed away now. Was a wonderful person, and I celebrated my birthday with her. And so I arrived over there, and being an amateur, I practiced the clubhouse, who was Herman Perry, a wonderful man, and he showed me around the golf the week before the tournament, and taught me a lot about the Cascades, which is a wonderful course. I don't think that I thought that I could win, because nobody had ever done it as an amateur, and in any case, I was only nearly just 22 when I played the tournament. So, but I know, as you say, one of you, I see you've read a lot of things about me, that my father did think that I could win, and that helped me to be confident. And after 2 rounds, and the person, Merle Lindstrom, who played me with the 2 first rounds, I was 5 strokes ahead after 2 rounds. So I started to think that I could win. I didn't know if I could go on. I called my parents at that time. You didn't call telephone very easily from the United States to Europe. So I did, but I did call. I didn't do it very often, but I did. And I said, I'll call you on Sunday to know how I finished, but probably not thinking that I could win, but in any case, that I had a good score. So what happened is the next day, the 3rd round, I was still 5 strokes ahead, and it was sort of very exciting, and I called them again, obviously. And then the last day, there was a storm. We stopped in the way. I was 5 strokes before starting, 7 strokes after 1 hole, because Margie Masters had a 7 on the first hole, par 5. And then with the storm, with the different greens, because of wet, it was rained a lot, so the difficulty in finding the timing of the greens. I lost a lot of shots, and I finished. I was only 1 stroke ahead and 2 holes to go, and 3 holes to go. And then I made a shank on the 16th hole luckily it went to the right of the green instead of being in the pond, which is right in front of the green. And managed to do a chip and 2 putts and finished with a 6. So I'd lost again another shot, so it was only 1 stroke and 2 holes to go. And luckily after that, well, I concentrated and made a very good shot on the 17th tee, shortcutting it a bit because I have a natural draw. So I shortcut it a bit and I had only an 8 iron to the green. And I made a very good shot then, which is very important, but it's only about 9-10 feet from the hole, and hold the putt. So that was a wonderful birdie, and it helped me to have 2 strokes ahead now on the 18th hole. And it was a par 3, long par 3, long iron, probably a 2 iron I hit, and went onto the green, not too far away from the hole, and made a putt. And I thought it was quite close, but I was still thinking when I was putting that putt, I say, now I'm only about a foot from the hole. I know I've got 2 strokes ahead, and I'm wondering if I've got to get closer to the hole still or try and make it, because if I miss it, that'd be the same distance the other way. Luckily, I putted it well and I hold it, so that's how I won. That was rather exciting. And it goes up to the next one. What did I think when I won it? The next morning I woke up and said, I'm not only the daughter of my parents, who were very great people, but somebody myself because I won the US Open. So that was very exciting, and it helped me all my life to have won the US Open. I think it's an incredible tournament, and it's fantastic.
Catherine, with that being said, how does it feel to be the only amateur golfer to have ever won the Women's Open?
Well, it seems incredible that nobody other amateur have won it. I think perhaps they're frightened of being amateurs. It's not because you're an amateur you can't play as well as a pro. Nowadays, obviously, I think the youngsters turn pro much earlier than what we did. I didn't turn pro on top of it because there was no pros in Europe. So if I'd turned pro, I'd have had to stay the whole time in the United States, and I liked Europe, I liked my whole country, I liked my family. So I didn't want to turn pro and have to go and play to the United States. Being a pro, I couldn't have played in the French team. I enjoyed very much playing for the French team and representing my country as individually and by team. And so I think an amateur, I think what you must think, even an amateur can win the Open. They have a complex because they think pros play better. They certainly play probably more tournaments, but I don't think they play better. It's a question of really thinking you can win it, and why not?
That's great to hear, Catherine. Did anyone else besides your dad have confidence or think that you would win the US Open?
After that, I don't think people thought about that an amateur or I could win it, but I think he certainly did. And being a champion and knowing that it was probably possible. My father was somebody that studied my game a lot. He was one person studying Ben Hogan for many, many years. He loved Ben Hogan's swing. He taught me a lot of things, and even though I had a wonderful teacher, Raymond Garayal, but my father talked a lot to him, and it was my teacher who sort of transmitted, to simplify things. My father was such a technician for his own game in tennis, and then after that for my golf, that they thought that he probably complicated things a bit more, and so he let my teacher transmit his thinking about my swing and let me have a very natural swing, which is very important, I think.
Thank you, Catherine. On to Oakley.
Compared to when you were a girl, how has golfing changed for girls?
Yes, I think golfing has changed for girls, even though there are many more of them who play, which doesn't make it easier to win, but there are many more who play, so you have better golfers, obviously. Especially in the States. I think in Europe still, There are more girls, but not as many. At my time, there were very, very little girls that played golf, and much older, because I was still 24 handicap when I was 13 or 14 years old. So you can imagine it's funny, because then I started playing more, especially from 16 years old. But I was still two handicap when I played the Women's World Team Championship, Espírito Santo in 1964. So, and then the way of handicapping also was very different. It's a sort of appreciation more than anything else. So it has changed a lot. I don't think the way of playing has changed. Well, you have also the saving, stroke saving. Um, we had different clubs. We had many more irons. I used to play a one iron, and quite easily, because of my very upright swing. Um, in the in the in a month's time, I put a lot of photos of my swing that time, and I had a very upright swing, which helped me to lift the club. One iron, I think I put one iron in your hands, you probably wouldn't know how to play it, and it'd be very difficult. Now with the sort of woods that you have, it's so much easier. But I don't know, it was a different way of playing, certainly, but still played. Yeah, I think I'd like really to say and insist, what is so important is golf is the short game. I consider you probably have to hit twice the time you practice on at least twice the time you spend hitting balls to practice chipping and putting. And when you watch my webpage, I put a few tips on that. But one of the things, putter. I used to see a book. I don't know if you know the book about Horton Smith, who's a wonderful putter, and I based my putting on that, and I was a good putter, which helped me tremendously. And the chipping, also something that I see all the players now, they changed. They have a one wedge, two wedges, three wedges. Personally, I had a sand wedge, obviously, but just for the sand or a very special shot. And I had a pitching wedge, and I used to play practically all my shots around the green with a pitching wedge, putting my hands forward, putting them a bit more back, forward if I wanted to run the ball, didn't want to lift the ball. Also, if you hit from the outside, from the inside, it makes enormous difference. And I studied these chippings for hours and hours, and I think it's one of the reasons. And you can know how to do a chip and a putt. There's no problem. You do a chip and putt. It doesn't matter if you, and then so you can attack the hole much easier, because if you miss the green, because you're attacking the hole, if you know that you're going to make a chip and a putt after that, there's no problem. So it gives you a lot of confidence for your shot. And so I think that's very important.
That was very interesting and informing about the past. I was wondering, your family owned a golf course, and if you grew up around golf, why didn't you go pro too?
First of all, it was my grandfather, my mother's father, who built the club in 1928, Golf de Chantaco, and it was a wonderful course. But I didn't live there. I lived in Paris, and this one was southwest of France. I spent all my holidays there, so I did play a lot of golf, but probably much less than what you do, because I only played summer, Easter, and Christmas. So when I went there, I played, but I didn't play every day. I just I think people with children, in any case, started much later than what you do now. So that I didn't do. And so why didn't I go pro? I think I answered that question a bit earlier. There was no pros in Europe. So if I turned pro, I couldn't have played for France. I couldn't have played practically any tournaments. I'd go only to the United States to play tournaments. And obviously there was no tour in Europe. So I stayed an amateur and played for France and enjoyed it very much. And then when I was 25, I decided I wanted to get married and have children, a bit like what did Lochina Ochoa, in a way, perhaps a bit earlier than she did. But she also, well, stopped professional and tournament playing, but she was a pro because at that time she could play a lot of tournaments around. But so at 25, I mean, there was still no pros until the 80s, so 10 years later. And I had 4 children, which was also a good thing to do.
Thank you very much. And for my final question, what advice would you give a girl in golf?
I think the main thing is have fun. Smile to the ball. My father used to say, smile to the ball and the ball will go into the hole. It's also, first of all, you must have fun playing golf. And if you're too tight and too stressed, you can't play well. So a way of de-stressing is to smile at the ball. And so I think have fun. If you don't have fun playing golf, you won't play well. So I think that's the main thing. And then practice a lot your short game. You'll play much better. That's the most important, to get your rounds down and have a lower handicap. Sorry. So to have a lower handicap is practicing short game all the time. I
Thank you
think that's
very
the main.
much. On to Sabrina.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Catherine. Thank you for being part of the LPGA history, and thank you for continuing to inspire girls golf.
You are so inspiring, and thank you for sharing your time, stories, and legacy with us today on our channel. On to Sophie.
Thank you very
On behalf
much.
of our Birdie Booth team, thank you for spending time with us. Keep driving on, and thank you for inspiring our little girl big dreams.
Thank you.